First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here today. I want to acknowledge all our city officials, also county officials, and everybody, and our mayor for coming out today. All right, this whole conversation is going to be basically about the state of Memorial Field, okay, and the quality of life regarding that. One thing I want to let everybody know is we already know all the major issues. We already know all of the things that is going wrong. It's about talking about how we can make things go right, okay? What do we need to do to come together to make this thing work, okay? And we have actually the team up here that can do this kind of thing, and some of them are also sitting in the audience as well. Maureen is here. Thank you for coming, Maureen, as well. Anybody else I missed? Any official? Clinton Young is here, who was here when it started and all. So, and Yana Edwards is right in front of me. So these are all the gentlemen that can make this come together and happen. And I know we've been talking to a lot of folks in the community, and everybody has a lot of concerns about what is happening, what's the state of this, and where it's gonna go. So with that being said, we also had little booklets that was given out. Everybody got one? No. If you came in, if you did not get one, just raise your hand. They'll bring the booklets around. It looks like this. Okay. What I want to make sure is that when you have a question, you don't have to raise your hand. We're going to get into those questions later. So I know a lot of times when you have a question, you want to raise your hand and just try to get it out so you don't forget. We have little booklets for you to write your questions down and your notes of what's going on so you can remember what you have to say when it comes to the question and answer section. All right? So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to two of the three that came here so far. The other one is on her way. AJ Woodson and David Jones. Thank you all for coming.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Damon Jones, and this is my partner here, AJ Woodson. We co-founded blackwestchester.com. It's a black magazine that talks about the news and the views on what's going on in black communities throughout Westchester County and this tri-state area. And we also have an internet radio show called People Before Politics. It's on In the Mix Radio with 2X's.com every Sunday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we started the magazine and the radio show, we wanted to create dialogue around our issues because we felt that News 12, the Journal News, and other mainstream media was not addressing the issues in the black community and communities of color. So we came up with blackwestchester.com, and we thank those that have supported us, and we thank those elected officials that have came out to do the interviews either as an article on the website or have come on the radio show to discuss the issues. One of the major issues that we did have that we addressed in the magazine and on the radio show was the condition of Memorial Field, because we felt that the community of Mount Vernon and the larger community of Westchester County really had questions about what was going on with the building of Memorial Field. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to AJ Woodson.
AJ Woodson, as he said, I'm the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester magazine. Personally, I was in Atlanta for the last 10 years. I came back up and they had this rally for Memorial Field. And I was so distraught on the condition of how it looked, the place that I used to go when I was in high school. And I wrote this article which kind of started all of this mess. And it seemed that a bunch of y'all were interested and very concerned. So I took it upon myself to start interviewing all the politicians and asking the tough questions and trying to get to the root of the problem. One of the reasons we wanted to have this was, and no disrespect to any politician here, one of the things, there was a lot of buck passing, and it's harder to do that with everybody in the room. So we came together to have this forum to address what needs to be addressed about Memorial Field and for the residents to be able to ask the questions. And you know, that's what we hope to be able to move forward today from that. Question one, I want to thank everybody for coming. The three of y'all at the table here, I want to ask all of y'all to briefly try to keep it briefly, address the current state of Memorial Field, what's going on, and we'll go from there. Mayor, you have the mic first since you're in front of the mic. And you're the mayor.
Good morning. This is Easter Sunday weekend, and so I won't be able to stay here more than an hour. So whatever you got to say to me, do it within an hour. I'm not sure that everybody is aware of what's happening at Memorial Field. In fact, I know they don't. So what I've prepared is a chronology of the history of Memorial Field and where we are today. So I'm going to pass out I noticed that the former Mayor Clinton Young is here, and actually he should be on this. I don't see how we can have an intelligent conversation unless you respect the history of Memorial Field, which he has been very. He was there at the inception. But be that as it may, where are we now and why are we here? First of all, Memorial Field goes back to when I was a county legislator, when Andy O'Rourke offered to take over Memorial Field. And I brought it to the then mayor, Ronnie Blackwood, and he decided that that was not a good idea. The public, people were against it. And it cropped back up when I became mayor, and we were moving pretty well, so we rejected it then. And now it's back before us. When all is said and done, it's money. I don't care how you can talk all you want to, it's about money. And where we get the money, because the will is there. But be that as it may, I hope you thumb through all of this chronology, and then you can ask intelligent questions on this, based on that. But we have done quite a bit of work at Memorial Field. How many people have gone past Memorial Field? About half has, and about half has not. You should go over there to make an intelligent decision. The first thing we've done is you'll see a retaining wall and put up, and that retaining wall was because we wanted to bring the tennis courts up to USTA standards, and the reason for that is you can have top flight players give tournaments, give lessons in a sanctioned facility. So we've done that. The 6 courts that were deficient has now been installed and it's really ready to play on. But the thing that we're doing now is we are ordering the steel. It's going out to bid, and the steel will be erected so that we can put up the clubhouse. And then you go down to Memorial Stadium. Memorial Stadium has gone out to bid, and we have to do it in stages. We now have the bids for almost $5 million, and that $5 million will, it will appear to be complete, but of course it won't be, because we're addressing first the environmental concerns. That's number one. Number two, we'll address the masonry that surrounds the building. And number three, precast concrete steps will be installed in place of the concrete steps that's there. And the infrastructure such as bringing in the electric lines, the plumbing lines, will all be addressed. After that, we plan to do the track after all that is finished. But we're trying to get ways now where we can pay for all of this construction. We, the county, we're in concert with the county to get the $6.3 million that the county has. If we get that money, we will be able to do a substantial, make a substantial dent in the memorial field.
Mr. Mayor, now, you spoke on doing environmental work, different aspects of that. I'm assuming prepping the ground for the building. Now, we also understand that there was an original plan that was approved. Now, wouldn't that be in the original plan that was approved to do all that? That was even approved to get the money from the county. So why are we back to basically square one when a plan was already approved? So that you know, because people hear what you're saying, but they also know that there was an original plan that was approved by
The plans were never approved. I don't know where you got that from. The plans were never approved.
Oh, okay.
Let me rephrase the question. There was a plan that was set in motion that the county approved, and that was the amount of money that they said that they would give for the original plan.
Well, that's
Can we have Lyndon speak from the county's perspective?
Let me speak to that. I think that, and I think we sometimes, I don't do Mike, I think that I.
Just for the people.
Yeah, just for the camera.
All right, because sometimes I think you got a lot of feedback. I think what you're talking about is in January 29th of 2009, the county of Westchester and the city of Mount Vernon entered into what's called an intermunicipal agreement. It's a contract for the development of Memorial Field. That contract set out a timeline for everything to be done in terms of the construction, development, funding, all of the pieces. And I think that's what you're referring to. That agreement was approved by the city council in 2009. And as a matter of fact, I got a copy of it. As a part of that agreement, they had to do what's called a secret. Basically, it's an environmental assessment, a long-form environmental assessment of the stadium. That secret preservation department, basically, is an agency of the state that looks at like old stadiums to see whether you can tear them down, whether you have to keep them up. They signed off, so that secret actually has been approved. And the secret is based on the plan that actually was approved back in 2009, which was for a larger facility at Memorial Field. That plan has changed, as you know, basically. I think what the mayor is referring to is under the changed plan, they're going out, I guess, and do kind of another secret environmental assessment that actually to kind of support the new plan that that the city actually is putting together. Now, from a county perspective, the reason why you have to get approval is that you have an agreement in place, right? As I said, back in 2009. The agreement set up clear steps of what has to be done, when it has to be done, as a condition for the county giving the money that it's supposed to give. Now, once that changes, the whole the process kind of starts over. I'm not saying it starts over, it has to be a long, drawn-out process, but you have to have, you can't have one agreement saying one thing, and then you're doing something else. So you've got to go through that process, and that's what my role as the county legislator is, to try to actually help the city to get through that process of trying to get these approvals through the county. It's not gonna, you're not going to tell them, give me the money, and it's going to happen. It's going to have to go through a process because you have a legislature and an administration. They're accountable to the entire county residents for the money that's being given to Mount Vernon or any other municipality. So that's the process that I'm working through right now with the mayor. The last time we met, I met with the mayor as well as the commissioner of recreation. We set out a plan for the city to kind of identify the funding source because there is a gap. Right now there is a $5 million gap in funding that needs to be identified in terms of where the source of those monies are going to come from. The county administration has taken a position that they will not put any money of the $6.5 million in until the end, in other words, because they do not know whether the city would be able to fill that $5 million gap. So what their plan was, we're not going to put any money in, we'll put it in at the end, so then we'll know that you've completed the project. I've spoken to them about what, because I said, look, let's see if the city can show that it can put up the $5 million, where the money's going to come from, and then the county and the city can work out how the funding is going to go along. So it wouldn't put as much pressure on the city to kind of fund up front and wait for the county money at the end. So that's it. That's a discussion I've had, and I'm waiting. I know the last discussion we had, Mayor, what was it, 2 months ago, maybe, in his office. We're waiting for the bids to come to the county because it has to go through the county parks department. And I know the commissioner of recreation is working with the city council and the controller's office to identify how they're going to come up with the $5 million, if it's going to be a bond or whatever it is that's going to be the source of those funds, so that we can sit down and have really meaningful discussions to kind of get this project off the ground.
The first part, when you spoke, Lyndon, about the environmental test, was that paid by the city or by the county?
That was paid for by the county out of the county funds that actually, the county advanced $1.3 million to the city at the beginning of the process. And this is the environmental studies right here. I got blood with me. It's called a secret. Here it is, right here. It's a kind of a long document that goes through several pages. This is the results of the study right here.
Okay.
And the county paid $1.3 million for the city for the design of the stadium. That design includes the analysis that was environmental analysis. And it's through that environmental analysis, the decision was made that the stadium had to come down. It was not because, I don't think it was because they didn't have appreciation for the architectural design of the stadium. I think they reached a conclusion that, and I want to make sure that I'm accurate, because it says that that the existing stadium requires demolition and reconstruction due to its current deteriorating structural conditions and the presence of potential hazardous constituents, lead, asbestos, PCB, etc., contained within the structural materials used at the time of the construction in 1930s. And so that's the reason why they decided to take it down. Okay. And so now, I mean, the plan has changed, and that's, I understand that. And so we have got to have some steps by which you have a new environmental statement that says what their findings are not, some are not accurate. And secondly, how you remediate that, basically.
Okay.
I'm listening to everything, and I don't know if all the residents understand it as well. What kind of a time frame are we talking about now on the new study and this whole thing before a process can actually begin, it sounds like, and I don't know which one of y'all want to answer that.
I think the mayor probably can better answer that, because they're gonna come back, and the plan is that we're gonna sit down after the city has actually gone through its process and sit down with them, and I'm ready, willing, and able to set that up.
You know, I think that the worst thing black folks can do is start blaming themselves for the condition that we face. And that is a joke that's been played too long. The county has never really understood or felt the necessity to help a city that has done so much for so many people. It is consistent, and I was a county legislator for 12 years. It is consistent what the county does for this city. 4th Street Playground, the legislator got it through, and the county executive refused to give the money.
Can I stop you real quick and speak this position I have as a moderator, and we have limited time. I would like to get back to the question on like a time frame on.
You have, in order to throw out a time frame, you have to understand the problems that we face. So I don't think it's a waste of time to intelligently approach the place we are at this time. Mount Vernon has a lot of things going for it. I'm an architect. And I approach this not as a politician, but an architect. And that stadium is the only stadium in Westchester County of its kind. I felt as an architect that we should save the iconic nature of the stadium. Neither stadium could have been built with $11 million. Neither one. I don't care which proposal you desire. I felt as an architect that to destroy the iconic nature of this stadium would be something that I could not reasonably square with my training and my concern for history. And that is what we're doing. The mediation that we speak of is before they were taking the steel out. Now we're saving the steel, and the steel has lead paint on it, so it has to be ameliorated. And that's why we have and there's another concern that there's some tar on the roof that the environmentalists deem that should be removed.
Okay, with due respect, Mr. Mayor, we want to get back to, there's a process.
Listen, the only time that you can set up a process is when you can identify the money. There's no way that you can sit down and say, I'm going to do this.
Well, you didn't allow me to finish. You didn't
allow me to finish.
You didn't allow me, because we have to, for the sake of time, you only have an hour. So we're trying to.
Mr. Moderator, you started late.
Well, no, you said you only had an hour. Well, we want to move on to the city council. We want to move on to the city councilman. We just want to move on to the city councilman.
Well,
I'm giving you the opportunity.
If this is, if I've exhausted my usefulness, then
No, we not. We didn't say that. That's not what we said. We want to move on to the next question. So
have you exhausted the question that you put before me?
yeah, you exhausted it.
Okay then.
Councilman, in voting to change the plans, were you aware of the process that Legislator Williams explained, and what would be the repercussions and the money that was already spent for the environmental plans and everything like that, that Legislator Williams explained.
First, let me just say thank you to you guys for putting this together and to Beyond It Now for hosting us and pulling the community together. I think it's very important that we have this discussion. And I also, with respect to the question that I'm going to answer rather quickly, I just want to restate the objective for why I believe we're here. I believe we're here to try and identify a pathway to put Memorial Field toward a reasonable conclusion, meaning we're going to have a time frame for when it's going to be done. We're going to have an understanding of how much money it's going to cost, and we're going to have the community have a realistic expectation for when they could get access to the single largest, biggest public open space in the city of Mount Vernon. And it has been closed for far too long. And when the decision was made, rather unilaterally, to go a different direction, I still support that decision. And there are a couple of reasons why. One, I was, prior to becoming a council member, I was the governor's regional director for the Lower Hudson Valley. And I saw a project very similar in Rockland County. They were going to build a baseball field for $13 million. It wound up coming in at $60 million. That's a baseball field. So I believe the deal, as designed originally, was unrealistic. I believe it was uneconomic, and for the city to take over the county's responsibility to fill potholes on county roads, in my opinion, was a real mistake, because we can barely fill our own. And you can look outside, look all across Mount Vernon. We haven't even put up the money to fix the equipment, $1,200 to fix the equipment properly, to fill our own potholes. So once upon a time, Memorial Field was open. And I remember it because I was a young kid, I was 2 years old, running around the field, chasing after my brothers and sisters. Fast forward to today, I have a 2-year-old at home, hoping one day to grow my family, and I can't even bring him to Memorial Field. It is a real terrible experience to sit on the council and listen to the bickering back and forth and listen to more storytelling. And quite frankly, I was under the impression that there was a process to bring this to conclusion. However, the same questions remain. Transparency. Where's the money? We can't get a printout that's current to date. Our comptroller is here. I resubmit my request. Give us a run of all the money. Show it line by line. That's what the county wants. That's what the council's been requesting, and we don't have it. And, you know, it's reflective, the process that we have is reflective of just how far Mount Vernon has drifted from its core values. And one of the things I can tell you is, if it's clear that Memorial Field is out of control. And if you want to take charge and you want to see Mount Memorial Field reopen, you have to take charge. And when I was in the governor's office, mind you, I was a regional director. I wasn't the governor, but I brought folks to the table, around one table, very similar to this, and had a very deliberate discussion. I'm going to paint you a very quick example, because Lyndon and his colleagues recently celebrated the conclusion of this, Westchester Joint Waterworks. It was in litigation for almost a decade by the time I got there in 2008. And what happened? I grabbed Larry Schwartz, I grabbed the folks at the New York State Department of Health, I grabbed some other folks in the governor's office, and just real quick, there was no process, there was no money. And the bottom line is, we figured out how to get it done within a few weeks.
Okay, I'm good.
So I think we need to just get over ourselves and focus on how to get this thing done.
I'm going to stop you right there, and I just want to, first up, I'm going to let Lyndon answer, but before that, I know it's difficult. Everybody has a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings about this field, but I want to make sure that we address the issues.
Right.
Do more addressing the issues and less of attacking the person and making it a person. No, let me
This is not an
finish.
attack.
Well, I know, but let me
This
finish.
is just the truth.
And this is just a general for everybody.
Okay.
Just like it's a ground rule or whatever. The residents basically, I'm here to represent the residents. Basically, since I've been covering the story, have heard so much about so many things.
Yes.
I've actually interviewed most of you, and you know, they've heard the stories. I've had several of you on the radio show. They want to know what they can expect realistically.